So this is a document that we're using today. It hasn't been fully completed yet for the bottom section, but it does have a lot of the things that you can refer to later. So we won't go too much into this, but this is here for easy reference. If you take a quick look down at the bottom, under this build a prototype section, these are all screenshots from actually building a prototype, so you can see what is selected and clicked on, but this doesn't have any like commentary or steps yet. But these are here for visual reference if you need them, and the steps will be added later. But for right now, the getting started and like common actions are going to be more important. So those are here for reference. But we will just go ahead and get started about Figma. So what exactly is Figma? It's technically a vector graphics editor and a prototyping tool that is web-based, but it has additional features that you can use on your desktop. And vector graphics just means basically images that are based on mathematical equations. From my understanding, I don't know much about vector graphics. But this document also links to different things. So like if you want to learn more about like what vector graphics are, or go straight to the Figma site, there will be some links throughout the document to learn more about things. So what is Figma used for? It's basically something we can use to build prototypes of websites or applications, and you can use like various screen sizes. So if you want to make something that's for like a mobile size screen or a desktop, and then also creating things like style guides. They have a new thing called whiteboarding with a team, which is really cool. And style guides is actually something that we'll do with the web team as well if you're interested in that. But today we'll look at the prototyping part. But on Figma, you can also document your workflow, you can comment on things, you can share things, you can edit as a team, and then it also lets you export components. And that gives you like either images that you want to export, you could export like snippets of code. As you design things, Figma actually has a place where you can see what the code behind that is, and that actually will help your development team as well. So that's something that's really cool. And then everybody should have a Figma account. If you don't, it shouldn't take very long to do. Their payment plans are here. You just need a free account, and as a student, you should actually, I think, get the professional account as well for free. And it says that it's really easy to verify. I actually haven't been through this process, so I don't know, but it sounded like it was simple. If not, let me know. But something to note with that is that our web team actually got approved for an educational plan, so that if you want to work with our web team, you can be on our team and we get a free team account for that, or team platform. So that's something that we'll be using. So getting started, once you sign into Figma, you should see kind of like this dashboard overview. And I don't know if you'll have all these same things, but you should be able to see the same panel on the left here. If we go to this draft section, you'd hit a plus right here. It's a new file, and we'll make a design file. So if we click that, it'll take us into our new workspace. And something to note about what we're looking at here is this empty area is called our canvas. And this is our layers panel. So anything that we add will actually create like a layer, and we'll see that here. And then this is our properties panel. So whatever you have selected, if it's text or an object, the relevant properties will show up here. So say we added text, we'll see that it'll say like sizing, the font type, all of that will be offered over here. And then up here we have our toolbar. So we'll actually go over what some of these tools do as well. And these are in the guide, so if you need to look back at these at any point, that's okay. You don't need to like memorize these, but I'll just go over them briefly so you know where everything is. So the first one we have is the move tool, and that's what we'll use most of the time to like select things, move them around. You can select multiple things by like grabbing a place on the canvas and just selecting multiple items. So if you click and drag, or you can just click on an item once it's in here and move it around. You can also, we'll see when we add objects, you can stretch them out or like reshape them. And this scale tool is actually what we would select if we want to make something bigger but keep its ratio. So if we want it to not like stretch out weirdly, but we want it to be bigger, then we could use the scale. Then we have our frame and slice tool. We're not going to worry about the slice tool today, but our frame tool is going to be one of the most important things. We click on it and we can actually see all the different things that we can use. And once we pick one of these, so say I want to make a desktop, like a prototype for a desktop screen, I can click on this and it creates a screen for me right here. And this is actually called an artboard, but because we're going to look at making a basic website prototype today, we'll just call it a page. But just so you know, this is technically an artboard, and this area back here is your canvas. So that is leading us to our shape tool. So we could draw our own rectangle if we want, but sometimes it's better to just go ahead with some of the preset designs over here. You can actually change these as well. So if you wanted this to be a different ratio, you can change this rectangle right here. But these are all the shapes that we can use, so we can do any of these. Mostly we'll be using the rectangle one. Place image is something also that's super important. So if we do this, it'll let us select an image location, and then we can paste it into our canvas and put it on this page or on a different page, and we'll see that a little bit later. Then we have the pen tool, and this one's kind of fun. We're not gonna worry about the pencil today, but the pen tool, if you wanna make your own shapes, you can click this and actually click and let go, and then you can drag this wherever you want. And if you click again, you'll keep adding line segments. And then if you hold when you click and move it around, you'll actually create a curve. And you can curve this any way you want. You can let go, and it's going to keep doing this until we hit escape. Once we hit escape, then we can leave what we have. If we want, this is where we'll use our select tool real quick, or our move tool. So if we click on this, we can actually change these now that they're in place, or we can move something completely, or if we select off of anything and we go like this, we can drag and select the whole object and move it around. But I'm going to go ahead and delete this because we don't need it. But that's just something cool. If you want to create your own shapes, that's something you can do there. And we'll just hit this done button up here whenever we're not using that tool. And then for text boxes, we click on this. We can actually just do one click and start typing, and then it'll actually expand as we keep typing, and we can like hit enter, have it just be whatever the shape is of what we're typing. Or if we have the text and we just do this, we can actually size our own box so that if I'm typing like this, it'll automatically fit into whatever box I put it in. And we can change this as well. So that's our text. We'll go ahead and delete both of those. And then this is our little grab tool. And so once we start having multiple pages or artboards on here, this is kind of handy to like move around. We just click and drag. And then the comment tool is the other thing that we'll look at on the toolbar up here. We can click anywhere on here, or if we had other pages, and we can just click and then type our comment, and then we can post it. People can reply to it. And then we can also, it's got emojis in here, which is fun. And then if you want to resolve it, you can just hit resolve. But if you make a comment, so if I just say, here's a comment, I post it, once I'm not selected the comments anymore, they look like they're gone, but they're not. You just click on this and you can actually see where they pop up and click on it and see that and any associated thread. But we'll go ahead and resolve that. Oh, not again. There we go. So those are some of our toolbar stuff that's just kind of quick access. And then something that we're going to look at over here is kind of like our menu stuff. So most of the time, this is what you'll use to get back and forth. So if we want to go back to our workspace, we can do this, and it'll go back to files. We can just click to get back in here. Takes a second. And then this also has plugins. So you'll notice I already have some plugins in here, and this is what you guys will want to do as well. So we're going to go to Browse Plugins in Community. We click on this. And right now it's under Explore, but we can click on Plugins and it'll just have a list here. And so if you can go ahead and install the ones that you see here, you don't need the material design icons unless you just really want that for later. But Unsplash, Iconify, and Lorem Ipsum are super helpful. So they should only take like a second to install as well.
Alright, so did I have to make a draft for this?
Do you what?
So if I were following along, like, did I have to make a new draft for this?
Yes, I don't know if you can, you might be able to do it from out here. Let's see. Yeah, I think you can still go to community. Yeah, you can. So
Okay.
you can do it either way and go to plugins. Yeah, and I'll briefly tell you what these are for. We have Unsplash for free images. They're like free stock photos essentially, but they're kind of better than stock photos. Then we have Iconify, which is like free icons that we can use. And then Lorem Ipsum is just like dummy text is what it's called. And it'll generate as much or as little as we need. So when you're building prototypes and you don't want to have to worry about like what exactly are we going to say on the about page, or you know, how do we want people to contact us, like you can just fill it in with like dummy text is kind of what that, you'll see what that is too. But that's really helpful because you don't have to worry about what things are saying. More so is like spacing and sizes and font choices. But once we have that, we should be able to click this icon in the top left, and this is how you'll go back and forth. We can go back to our workspace, or our dashboard, I'm sorry. And then we can click back into our draft. If you haven't made a draft, you can hover over drafts and do this little plus button, and then do design file. And that should take you in here. And if we click up here, we can rename this. So today you can make whatever you'd like. If you want to follow along making this just for practice, then that's cool. If you want to actually make your own like design along the way, that's okay too. We're just gonna make like a little coffee shop website. So I'm gonna name it that. And if you had like a project folder or a team like that you want to assign this to, you can actually move your project. But right now we're just gonna have it in drafts. And while we're at that, I'll also mention there is a share feature. So if you want to work on it with somebody, or you want somebody to be able to view it, you can actually embed it somewhere if you want to show off like your project on like your portfolio or something. So there's different things that you can do. You can also publish it to the community for other people to use. But just how we clicked on this to rename it, we're also going to do the same thing over here. So I'm just going to call this the home page. Hit enter. And we'll see it changed the title over here too. And what this created over here is called a layer. And you have a little eyeball icon you can click to not view that layer right now if you don't want to. There's not usually a reason that you need to do that right now. But there's also a lock icon, so if we had a bunch of stuff on here that we were moving around and we were tired of the page moving behind it, we can lock whatever we don't want to mess with anymore and just unlock it whenever we want to use it.
So how do I get there? Mine says just says page 1.
Page 1. On
So I'm not getting the home page underneath it.
Oh, so but you have this, like where it looks like this?
Yeah.
Okay. You just click on over here in the layers panel. If you double tap, it should let you edit and you can name it homepage.
Okay, so that would be page. So instead of page 1, it would be homepage.
Oh, are you saying page 1 as in like this one up here?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, don't worry about that. This is like a page of your canvas. So this whole thing.
Okay.
So if we add another another screen, it's still on page 1.
Okay.
Yeah, so everything we'll make today should be on page 1. We don't have to worry about that one. The only thing that we'll add is we'll continue adding these kind of pages, so like the actual web pages. I guess that's why they call them artboards, so it's not confusing with pages. But yeah, so right now we just have a home page. Does that look the same for you?
Yeah, no, it does now.
Awesome. Okay, so let's see. I want to make sure we talk a little bit about layers. So first thing, we'll test out adding a text box right here. So I'm going to call it, oops, my microphone is in the way. I'm going to call it Bella's Coffee. Now that we have text, do you see how all these properties pop up that have to do with text? So we can resize this, make this a little bit bigger, probably bigger than that. And then if we want to move it or resize like this, we can. And what we'll see is that you can also like change the fonts and other things. I'm actually going to give it, there's something called Quigley, and it just looks artsy, so we're going to go with that. So what you'll notice is now that we've added text, we have a little layer for it over here that has a T for text. And so this text is usually going to be labeled whatever you actually typed in there, which is fine for short things. But as they get longer, or say we refer to Bella's Coffee somewhere else, it might be worth noting like this is the site title or something. So you can double click on these and rename them as well if you want. So something else that we will add about layers is if we say I start creating a rectangle, so I go over here and I drag something, and now we can't see our title anymore, and we want this rectangle to be behind it, whatever order your layers are in are what's going to be on top. So we can actually click and drag this to where it's above it. Or we can do the same thing, selecting the object, right clicking, and doing like bring forward, bring to front, send backward. So this is similar to a lot of applications, whether that's like Google Slides or something like that. But you can drag these as well. And something also to note, you'll see in the guide as well, we talk a little bit about zooming and moving around. So we can actually hit Control on Windows and do the mouse scroll in and out. And then on Mac, I think it's Command and scrolling with your mouse, or Control plus or minus, and same with Command plus or minus for Macs. And so I'll show you an example as well. So like if we, of resizing this, if we do this, see how I change its shape. If I want it to stay like this, I can actually do the scale and drag, and you see how it stays in that shape. That can also be accomplished by holding Shift while we do this. So Shift will keep its shape. And then something cool also with objects or shapes like this, if you'll notice you have these little dots in here, we can actually click on it, hold it, and then pull it in. and we can curve it. So we can actually change the edges of things. You can also do it directly here if you want. So if you hover over like this, you'll see these little arrows. You can slide left and right. But I think it's easier to do it over here. And then we also have some effects that we can look at on the right-hand side. So we have a fill, stroke, effects, export. So fill is going to be like our main color. So if we wanted to make this pink, or we can move this around. And then down here is the opacity. So if we had layers of objects, we could make them more see-through if we want. If you want to make them just lighter in general, I would do that up here. And then use this for your opacity. But we can add effects with these little plus signs over here. So if we wanted to add, stroke is going to be the outside shape. So you see how this has this black line now? We can change like how thick that is. We can change where it is. So it doesn't make too much of a difference on this one, but you can do inside, outside, and you'll see it kind of changes the size a little bit. Then we can also do effects like drop shadow, layer blur, inner shadow, background blur. We'll play with the drop shadow. I'm going to remove this stroke real quick. So if you see the minus, that removes it. So if we don't want that anymore. But now do you see how we have kind of this shadow underneath? That's our drop shadow. And we can play with the settings over here. Kind of looks like a little sunshine icon. We can change our X and Y values, so where the shadow is. And then its blur kind of lightens it up. And then we can change its spread. So that's something cool if you want like more 3D looking buttons. You can add a little bit of a drop shadow. And then this export down here, this is how we would export. This is like an element right now. So say like we really want, this is the kind of box that we're going to use for a lot of things on our website or something. We can actually export this image to reuse it. And if we wanted to inspect, if you see this tab over here, this is really cool because this actually tells you the exact color, what kind of position we're looking at, width, height, all this stuff. So this is what you would use in like your CSS file. So this will be super useful when the web team creates like a style guide. Then we actually have code for like what that style would need to look like this. So that's under the inspect tab. But notice how you have to be selecting something for it to get anything over here. And that's because all of these relate to whatever is selected. Okay. So I'm going to actually shrink this. Put this up here. We're going to make this like a little coffee shop website. We're going to have like a little call to action button up here. Make it a tiny bit bigger. Okay. We are going to, we'll leave it that color for now. We'll play with it in a second. Let's add some other things. So I'm going to add a little text box here. Oh, that's a ginormous letter. If you still see all this stuff and you want to edit, go back to design. And that's where you'll find all of your regular editing for stuff. Okay. Oh, we're still in the cool text. Let's change that. We're going to go back to Roboto. Is anybody sure how to say that? Try to make this a little bit bigger. Okay, and none of this is going to be super pretty or exact. We're just learning how to play around with it. But something that we can do is we can copy paste. So if you have something selected, we can do Control C and then select over here, Control V, slide it out. Then we could just change this. So that's copying objects. You can actually also copy pages if we select like this up here, the page itself, Control C, Control V, and you see we have a second one. And what's important when you copy and paste another page, make sure you rename your other page. And I wouldn't copy it until you're done with whatever you want copied as well. So we're going to delete this, but you can copy paste very easily, whether it's pages or objects. Oops. That's the other thing. Make sure you're selecting the right thing. So if I select this, it should show me which one it is up here. There we go. Okay. So we're back to our page. We're going to make one more thing over here. Oh, I'm going to switch these. We'll put about and products. And if you'll see, it gives you some lines that can also tell you some spacing information. I'm not paying too much attention to those right now just for our purposes, but if you want to get like really specific about sizing, spacing, all of that, you can. Okay, we're going to add a picture. So if we go up here to our top left, we do this drop down, we go to our plugins, and we go to Unsplash. It's going to pop up a little picture search thing over here. And I'm going to search coffee, since we're making a little coffee shop website. I'm going to see if I can find like a wider picture, because we're going to have it spread across. I could probably use this one. So I'm just going to click on it, and it's going to put it in here, and we can exit out of this. This is a bit too big, so I'm going to use Control and my mouse scroll, zoom out, and size this down. I'm going to move it over here. Now I'm going to stretch it, and you'll notice it just naturally crops it for you as well. But if you want to edit, you can select the image, and you'll see over here we got this image button, and this is where you'll find all of your levels that you can control. And you can also change, like if you're going to crop it, we can change which part of it is being cropped. We can change the size of the cropping. We could also like make this more of a tile feature, have it fit to this, or fill. So I'm gonna keep this like that. We'll just resituate the cropping. Okay. So now we have an image over here, and then we're gonna make this button a similar color to the coffee, or the coffee beans at least. So if we click over here, and we can actually use this little color picker. You see this little eyedropper kind of thing down here? Click on it. You can hover over any color. We can actually make the button that color. Let's see, that's a little too dark. Well, we could just lighten it up. Okay. So, I think that will work. I'm gonna go back to my move tool. And then we're gonna zoom in a little bit, so we're gonna Control mouse scroll in, and we're gonna add some text. So we'll have this be like a call to action to find a store. We're gonna need to make that text a little bit smaller. Okay, maybe a little too small. These are things that you can always play with. I think I'm going to make my button a little bit longer. So we're going to select back here and just bring this out a bit. So I don't want it to just say find a store. I kind of want a search icon. So this is where another plugin is going to come in. So if we go up here in the top left and we go to plugins, and then we go to Iconify, we can actually type in search, and look at all these magnifying glasses. We can take our pick. So I'm just going to pick one, import it, and we'll see it over here. And I can drag it on top of my button. I'm going to close this. And I can actually change the color over here as well. So right now it's black, but I kind of want it to be white because we have a dark background. So now it should be white, and we can try to line it up. We'll probably move this text a little bit. It's not perfect, but it works. Okay, so now we have our little call to action button. Now what we can do is, since this whole thing is like a menu that's going to be kind of important, we want it to stay like fixed if we're going to scroll at all. We can add a rectangle. We can go up here, click add rectangle. We can actually outline the whole thing. We will make this white-ish, kind of do like a cream color maybe. You can do whatever you want. And then we are going to pull this down so it's at the background. We've got a random, oh, that's our image. I'm gonna pull that in here as well. I don't know why that's still covering this. There we go. We had to send it to back one more time. Oh, I think Zoom was covering my... Oh, there we go. Yep. I didn't see all my options over here. Okay, so before this gets out of hand, we're going to start naming things. So this rectangle is our Find a Store button. So I'm going to say Find a Store button. This rectangle is our... Oops. You can say our menu background. You can call it a nav bar background, whatever you want. This is our main image. And we can say things like main image since we are on the home page. When we get on another page, we'll know that that's not the same thing. These all should be fine. So we have this search icon, and we have our Find a Store button and our Find a Store text. And we kind of want all these things to be in the same, let me see if I can, we want them to be in the same group. So if I go in here, and I could select them on here, or I can select them on here. So I'm going to click Find a Store button, and then Control, like if I'm holding Control, I click on the Find a Store text, and then this icon. I'm going to right click and say Group Selection. And so this can be, oops, we'll just label it Find a Store. So if this is a button that we always want, if we move this out, aha, okay, I'm gonna delete this. So that's one thing, you can actually move things outside of other things. So if we wanted something to be outside of our home page, we can do that as well. You just select and drag it. So I'm going to remove that because we don't need that anymore. And so we can collapse this. And so now all of our Find a Store stuff is grouped together. So if this is a button that we want to reuse in different places, we can just select this, and then we can Control C, Control V. And now we have a whole grouping that can be moved somewhere else. But I'm going to delete that because we don't need that right now. Okay, so back to the menu background. We're going to give this a little bit of a drop shadow. So again, we can come over here and do like effects, drop shadow. And we need to move our picture down a little bit so we can actually see it. Okay, yeah, it's got one. And that just lets us know that this is our menu line, so we can just see it a little bit better. You don't have to have that drastic of one if you don't want to. I'm going to move this picture back now. Okay, so I'm going to select the rectangle and hit Control and do the coffee, home, products, about, and Find a Store. right click, group selection, and I'm going to double click and name this. I'm just going to call this nav bar. So that's the whole nav bar is now in here. And that way, whenever we want the nav bar on every page, it's all together. And so I'm going to actually right click and say create component. You'll see it turns purple. And what this means is that, say I don't want to duplicate this whole home page. Maybe I just want to duplicate the nav bar for whatever reason. Then if I make any changes to this original nav bar, that change will be reflected anywhere else that we have a copy of the nav bar. So if I start changing the position of something, I don't want to have to make that change like on every page. So this will take care of doing that. The next thing that we'll do is we are going to select this home page up here. We're going to do Control C, Control V. And we are going to make sure we're on the right one. So we see that this is selected and there's this outline over here. So I'm going to rename this one, and we are going to do an about page. Okay. I'm going to slide over here, and I'm going to delete this main image because we don't need that. So let's go add another image in here. We'll go back to plugins and do Unsplash. And I'm going to do something related to team, since this is going to be like an about. This looks like outdoorsy people. Okay. So we're going to grab this. I'm going to resize it. Let's see if I can. I love how it naturally crops as well. This is really nice. Okay, so we'll put that here, and then let's do some text. We'll just give this a title. I don't want to worry about what it's going to say though, so this is where our Lorem Ipsum stuff's going to come in. So if we go up here, we do the drop down, plugins, we go to Lorem Ipsum. Now we can change, like this could be sentences, words, paragraphs. I'm going to say words since this is the title, and I'm going to say generate. And then it just gives us some random words. So we can, I'm going to make this back to a more regular text here. And let's see. Yeah, I guess that's fine. We'll just move this over a little bit. Okay. So now I'm going to do this again for some paragraph text. So I'm going to go back to plugins, Lorem Ipsum, and this time we'll just do like sentences, and we'll say generate. If you want to select all the text instead of having to do this, if you're in the box, you can do Control A, selects all of it, and I'm going to resize this. Oh, not that small. We'll do, could do like 30 probably. Okay. We can actually change if we want it to be more light or bold, whatever you want to do. I'm going to go with something a little lighter. And then we can also do paragraph spacing right here. So like line height, that one, sorry, the one above it is line height. So we can kind of space out those sentences a little bit with this one that's got like an A and the 2 lines. And then I'm going to line these up over here. Okay, so now we just have like a little basic about page, and let's go to make a find store page real quick. So I'm going to probably duplicate this about page is closer to what we'll need. Oh, and something on here as well, if we have 2 different things, you see how these both say Lorem Ipsum now? So we can go ahead and name this. So we can say page title and first paragraph. And sometimes it helps if they don't matter what order they're in, then you can just go ahead and move them around so that it's like from top to bottom whenever you look at a layer. It's just easier. But this one, we need to move into the About page so that that's also organized. And we'll say main image. And this is just something that can get really out of hand really fast if you don't label things, so that's just why we go back and make sure that everything is labeled before moving on to the next page. Okay, so we're going to select About page, do copy, so the Control V, or Control C, Control V, and now we got another page. And we're going to call this Find a Store. We'll do products in a minute, but we have some other stuff that we can do for that, so we're going to do this page first. Alright, I'm going to delete this image, and I'm going to shorten this. Okay. So I'm going to just pick a map image real quick. So if we go back to Unsplash, we can just pick some sort of map. This looks like a coffee shop, so we'll click that. We're gonna resize this. Won't be perfect, but okay. So we're gonna do a little bit differently with this. We're gonna take a text box here and we'll say enter your zip code. I'm going to make this more of a normal weight, maybe a little bit smaller. Okay, so we're gonna put this like more towards the top here. Alright, so if they're trying to find a store, we want to just ask them where they're looking for. So we're going to create another little rectangle for a text box. And can drag that out. And let's make it more of like a white color, and we'll just add a stroke to it. So we'll go to this plus sign over here. And recently used colors can also be here, so I'm just going to go ahead and reuse this like brownish color. Okay, so we have a little box now. I'm going to try to line it up. I'm also really zoomed out, sorry about that. We'll go in a little bit further here. There we go. Okay. I'm going to make this tiny bit bigger. And now we want another button. So we can actually, let's see, we're gonna do like a smaller rectangle, I think. We'll just put it right next to it. And we'll make this one the same color as the button up top. And I'm actually gonna zoom in even more. And we're gonna make this a little bit more curved. I'm going to do the same thing to this. Okay, and we'll zoom out. Now that matches the little curve up here a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to move the button over slightly. Now we can reuse our magnifying glass. So if we go to the Find a Store group and we see this little vector icon, click on it, copy paste. We can drag it on top of the button. Put it more in the center. Now it's put it below some things here, so we're just going to drag it up top. Let's see. Okay, now we can see it. Cool. Well, we got some things that we haven't labeled here, so we're just going to say I'm going to call it search button since we have the Find a Store button is different. And then this will say zip code, text entry. You can name these whatever you want, but I'm actually going to group vector and search button. So select, hold Control, and click the search button. Right click, group selection, and I'm going to name this zip code search button, just so those two stay together. Okay. And these look okay so far. Awesome. So now we've got this that we can enter stuff into. And then ideally we would like probably make this like more of a bold color or something, and like pretend this is more of like an address. We can make it a little bit smaller. So if we listed out different locations, we could just so if this was like results, and that's what the benefit of this text is. We don't have to worry about what this says right now. Okay. So we're gonna start linking some things together and see how we can add some effects here. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to this home page. And if we remember, this is a component that all of these are using. So I just want to show you something real quick. If I double click Bella's Coffee and I make it 72, you see how it actually changed everywhere? And now I don't have to do that on every single page. So those will be purple outlined, just as a reminder, if you want to move stuff around or resize things. So when we want to link stuff, especially for menus, we want to go back to our original place where we have that like navbar component. So I'm going to actually double click about. We're not going to do home because we're already on the home page, but we're going to double click about, and we'll go up here to this prototype tab. So in the right hand panel, if we click prototype, we see this little interactions option. We're going to hit the plus sign, and then you can click on this right here where it says click none. And now we can actually change what happens. So we could say when somebody clicks on about or drags it or hovers over it or any of these, we're going to stick with on click, and then you choose what happens. So when somebody clicks that, now what? So if we look at this drop down, we can go to navigate to, scroll to, swap overlay. We're just going to do navigate to. So then another option pops up. Where do you want it to take you? And this is the great thing about labeling. We can see really quickly that we have this about page. So we click on about page, and now we see this little arrow drawn. So now whenever we click on about, it should take us to this page. We're actually going to bring this, let me see if I can bring this in. I'm too zoomed out. That's one thing, if your text boxes are a little bit too big, it might get overcrowded over here. So to just make sure that you size those accordingly. Okay, so I'm going to click off and double click on products. So I'm going to add an interaction for that as well. Oh, well, you don't have a products page yet. Sorry. Not products yet. We'll go over to find a store, and we will actually just double click on it, and it's all selected. They're all grouped together. So that actually works out really well. We're going to add the interaction. That way we don't have to worry about if it's just clicking the background or clicking the text or something. They're all grouped together. We're going to click over here. We'll do on click, navigate to, and then we'll say find a store. We can exit out of this. Okay. So if we notice, now the line is drawn all the way to find a store. If we look at this page, we actually have the same thing happening. So about page links to itself, find a store links to find a store. Now we can't do, when we try to do the home page, if we double click on this, I'm going to resize this one as well. 1 second. Drag that in a bit. If we try to add an interaction and we say navigate to, it doesn't have the option for the home page because we're on the home page. But if we zoom back out here, and we go to the other page. Since they're all connected, we can still do this and it'll do it to the other pages as well. So we can say home, on click, navigate to home page. Now we see lots of lines happening. We'll say navigate to the home page. Okay. I believe you might be able to, well, dragging these things can be difficult sometimes. But yeah, getting it to link to itself is a little bit hard, so that's why I just go on the other page and add that. And then whenever you duplicate these pages, that'll be linked. So to make sure that all this crazy web of stuff is working, now we can see all this. We can go in up to the top right and hit the play button. It might take a second, and images might take a second to load as well, so don't worry if it's like being slow. There we go. Cool. Alright. Oh, we didn't fix our top. We'll go back and fix our top. So you see we can't click on home right now because we're on the home page, but my cursor changes over the about and the find a store. So if I click on about, it takes us to the about page. If I click on find a store, we're on the find a store page. The image is just taking a second. Some images are slower than others, but we can see that I can actually do the find a store page or find a store button on the home page. All of these are linking to the right place. And then we can just go back. If we want to look through the pages as well, like without clicking on stuff, you can look through here. And it opens a new tab, so I can just exit out if I don't want it anymore. Okay, so we confirmed all of that is working. I'm going to show us how to fix the nav bar real quick, because we want to make sure that when we're scrolling, we don't lose our menu. So I'm going to make sure I'm on the original one. So on the home page, the original component down here for navbar, I'm going to select that. And then on design, there's a little option that says fix position when scrolling. We're going to select that. And so if we go to the about pages navbar, we should, let's see, we already duplicated that. So we might have to check it again. So fixed when scrolling. So if we go to navbar, we just keep checking that little fixed position. Oh, and we have an image that got away from us up here. Let's see what that's to. I think that's, yep, okay. So I'm gonna say map, and then I'm gonna drag that into find a store. Okay. And you see that once you fix the, we need to make sure that's under scrolls, because once we fix the position of something, you see how that's listed under fixed now? And then they have scrolls. So you want to keep the items that you do want scrolling underneath the scrolls part. So now let's go test that. So we'll hit the play button again. Okay. So look at that. Now we scroll, we can see the little drop shadow, looks like it's kind of 3D. And then we can go to the about page, we can scroll, and then find a store. Yay! Okay. Does anybody have any questions so far? Have you been able to get everything to connect? All good. Yay! Awesome. Okay. So something that we're going to do now is mimic input, or at least like selecting something. So this find a store page, we're actually going to click on it, Control C, Control V. Okay, and now I'm going to actually zoom out a little bit, and we can move these so that they're not all next to each other. So if you want to keep certain things together, so if we have this selected, I'm just going to go ahead and drag this underneath. And that way it just keeps these two together. And that's the cool thing about this canvas, is like you can paste things wherever you want and kind of like keep your own organization of stuff. So whatever works for you. What we're going to do now is we're going to say when somebody clicks on this box, we wanted to kind of change color to give that feedback that they actually selected the box. So I'm going to zoom in here. Firstly, before I forget, see, this is hard to get in the habit. I'm going to select and see what page I'm on. So this is the duplicate, find a store. So I'm going to name this find a store zip code selected. Or let's see, I'll call it text box selected. Text. There. So we know that this is the result page versus the regular page. Okay. So if we click on the box, I'm going to go down to the fill color, and instead of white, we're going to do like a little creamy color. There we go. And now we're going to fake a little bit of a cursor. So we're going to go into our shape tools. We're going to put a line in here. And just do a tiny line that's kind of from the top to the bottom, not completely, but just a little bit. Oh, I'm going to try to keep it straight. Okay, and instead of black, I'll probably lighten this up a little bit. Okay, that's a bit big. Hang on. So we'll go in here, select it, make it a little bit smaller. Move it to the middle. Still a little dark, so we can just keep kind of playing around with the colors and stuff. Okay, so if we zoom out, now this kind of looks like I selected and I'm about to type something. So what we can actually do is, instead of like a whole page or like a menu, we can go back to the original page and we can click on this box and we can actually add an interaction to that. So we're going to go to prototype, interactions, click, navigate to, and we'll say find a store text box selected. Now, something that you will kind of probably prefer when you're doing something like this, where it's going to be the same page, you're not like scrolling down the page or doing anything like that. Instead of instant, if we do smart animate, it'll actually kind of be an easier transition from that place to the next, so the page won't fully like reload. It'll look a little bit cleaner. I believe it's smart animate. We're about to test that out. Okay. So if I try to test this again, the little play button in the top right, and we go to find a store, I see this button, now my cursor changed, I can actually click on it. So I click on it, and look at that, color changed, and then we get this little thing, so it kind of makes us feel like we're clicking on it. So if we go back and we see that again. So it's just something kind of cool, so you can imitate like what you'd want it to do if somebody clicks on it. So the last thing that we're going to add is this products page. So this is actually going to show you how to put an image inside of an object too. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and copy, let's see, we'll copy the about page because that's the closest to what we'll be doing. I'm going to actually shrink all this stuff real quick. So if you click these little arrows, you can kind of minimize some stuff. Okay, select the about page, do Control-C, Control-V. And I'm going to, I can leave that where it is, that's fine. Okay, so you'll see it already comes with a lot of links because it has the same like menu and stuff. We're gonna go in here and I'm gonna delete this picture. I'm gonna move this over here and I'm actually just gonna delete this. Okay, so let's rename this before we forget. Double click. We'll call this products page. Okay. Now we're gonna put an image in here. We're gonna go to Unsplash. I'm just gonna type coffee again. And we'll find something to put. We're gonna go with like an image across. That works. Oh. I had that selected so you can actually see that that filled in, and that's not what we wanted to do. So I'm going to do Control-Z and we're going to make sure that it's not selected if you don't want it to snap into that shape. So I'm just going to click it now. And now it goes on top. Okay, so I'm going to scroll out. And if we actually like hold our mouse in this corner, you see this little curved thing, we can flip this around. I think I'm going to do it this way. There we go. Okay, I'm going to make this a bit smaller now. And I'm going to stretch it like this. And we can go ahead and close this for now. Zoom back in. Okay. So, what happened here? Oh, our picture. Okay. We'll call this main image and we'll move this to its proper page. So make sure this is under products, under the scrolls part. Okay. And we want our text to be on top of the image. So we're going to slide that up. Oop, that's our about page. Here we go. Page title above main image there. Okay. And I'm just going to say something, oops, for everyone. Pretend this is a cheesy advertisement. Okay. Slide this out, slide that up. I'm actually going to make this a little bit smaller too. And remember, if we select and we're under design, we can click on image, crop, oops, crop, and see how we want it. I'm probably going to do it like that. Okay. Now we can move this up. Now here's the fun part. If we do like multiple items that we want to put pictures in, if we go to this shape tool up here, and we do a bunch of rectangles, so this is like browsing a products page, we can just keep making little rectangles. They don't all have to be perfect. If you want to do like a uneven gallery of photos, let's see, we'll just put them like, you can size these however you'd like. You can just copy paste these as well. May have gotten out of hand on my sizing here. Oops. But you get the point. So we'll just leave it at that. Now what we can do is we can select the first one that we want to put something in, and we can go back to Unsplash. And we can drag this over here where we can see it. And we can, I'm just going to type in coffee again and keep getting images of coffee. So if I want an image, I can just click on it and it'll go in whatever object I selected. I can keep this open, select the next box, and do the same thing. So I can actually just fill them in, and then we can change how they're cropped later if we want. So I'm just gonna get a bunch of random pictures. Okay, cool. So we can have an image selected, go back to image, and fix how it's cropped if we want as well. So if I wanted to do that, we can. I'm gonna leave it how it is for now, but you can definitely play with that. Okay. So let's say we want to have an image where we can like hover over it and then click on it if we want. Let's go ahead and make a page for just products. So if we're gonna duplicate the about page one more time. So copy, paste, and carefully move that down. Okay. And we are going to call this a product, so like a single product. We don't have to be specific on products because we're not like making all the product pages. So for now, just like a product page. So we can delete that. I'm going to select all of this, move it down. We'll add one more picture in here. We can just copy paste. So I'm going to drag another image in here. Okay. I'm going to select this again and move it down real quick. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to like copy a little bit of this to get the same font. And then I'm going to say back to, you can make like a tiny little button up here if you want to. Sometimes you have like this, we have a products page, but if we wanted to have like a little back to products button, we can. Okay. So that is the actual product page. We're going to slide this down actually. So we're going to create a page for what happens when we hover over this. So if we want something to happen when we hover, not just click, we can actually duplicate this page again. So I'm going to select products, copy paste, and I'm going to move it down here. And I'm going to say products hover, so we just know which one's which. And on this page, on products hover, I'm going to add a rectangle. There's a couple different ways you can do this, but this is one of the easiest in my opinion. We can add a rectangle and we will make it some kind of color, so we could just do that brown and then we'll just change the opacity. There we go. Okay, so that'll let us know which image we're hovered on, and let's just reuse our little search icon. So we're going to take this guy, copy paste, I'm going to put it in the middle, we're going to make it white, okay, make it a little bigger. So now we can select this image. So this is the original page. So if we're on the products page, we can select this image, go to prototype, interactions, and we can say if somebody just directly clicks it, we'll still have that navigate to the A product page. But we also want to add an interaction. So we'll go up here, add, and we'll say on hover. So while hovering, navigate to, and then products hover. So now it has both the click and the hover. Oops, that changed to drag for some reason. Click and hover. I don't know why that didn't stick. Okay, so on click we go to the products page, product, and then hover we go to this page where it's hovered. So then on the hover page itself, we also want to add the click interaction. So if somebody is hovering it and they click it, we say on click will also navigate to a product page. Okay, cool. So let's test this out. We'll hit the little play button up here. Okay, so let's go to products. Oh, we didn't link products on the home page. Ah, that's good to note. Okay, go up here and we'll double click products and we'll add the interaction, click, navigate to products page. Okay. So now let's try that again. Okay, so now we're on the products page. Look at that, yay! We hover, we get our little effect, we can click on it, and it takes us to the singular product page. We can go back to products. So that's just pretty cool to do. And then, yay! Yeah, it's really fun. You can add all kinds of stuff. Something that we'll do real quick for clicking, if we look at the menu for these interactions, so instead of instant, you can actually add different animations. So we can do like a slide in, and you can change like which direction it's coming from. It'll show you on here what happens. So we'll have it slide in, and we'll show you what that is. So I'm going to click about, and it slides. So we can have different animations. So this is the slide transition. This is the instant. And then if we're on the Find a Store, whenever you're clicking on something that you want it to just do the same thing, you can either do instant or you can do like smart animation. Can be a little bit smoother if it doesn't look like it's being enough. But that's about as far as we'll go today. I'll actually show you, if I go back to files. So this is the original little website that I played around with. I had a little bit more time to clean things up. So that's something you can definitely like keep messing with stuff if you want. So we just have like a little advertisement here. And then we have the about page, we have the products page, and then we do the same hover effect. I can go here, I can go back to list, I can find a store, and then this is something where like if you wanted to add like see more results or visit like that particular store, like you can start like adding more things to it. And then the last thing that you need to do, we'll go back to our current project, is make sure that we are cleaned up in here. So for like this one, when we have the zip code search, so we have the text entry box and this line, we're gonna want to group those together. We'll say group selection, and we'll say zip code search box selected, something like that, so that you just make sure you don't have any like random pictures or things like hanging around outside of your different pages. And just a reminder, like these little hashtag symbols, these are the artboards or like the web pages, and you can organize them however you want. So like I have all my products in a row, I have like my find store stuff in a row, and you can just like keep zooming out and like have a giant canvas doing whatever you'd like, and you can add comments and like work with people on them. But I think that was all the basics for today. There's a lot more that you can do with this stuff, but just to get you started and like playing around, and you could like make it on a mobile view if you'd like, if you don't want to do like a little website testing that out, but just to get you started.